Hey, everybody. Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, Danielle, how are you?
I'm good. We're going to kind of wait around and see who pops on. That's
Okay,
just coming up live now.
great.
Give it a few seconds. If you're logging on and you can see us, definitely give us a thumbs up or say hello. Second. Here we go. All right, John, I'm so excited because this is the first official personality behind the page. So thank you for
Yeah.
being here with me. I appreciate it so much.
Well, thanks for having me on the show.
So
I
we were just
appreciate it.
sharing. Yes, of course. So we were just sharing that we actually have a mutual past that you actually worked in the newsroom too.
I did, yeah, for 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 year. That was enough for me.
1 year.
Yeah, but you did
Love
it
it.
for a
So
while.
I did it for a long time. Yeah, I sure did. It's kind of
Yeah.
crazy. Oh, listen, we've got some people popping on. Casey and Debbie and Adrian. Hi, thanks for joining us. We'll get
How are you?
started. And I want to introduce my friend and author and business coach and expert, Jon Dwoskin. He book out. And we're going to talk about that. But first, really wanted people to get to know you, John, and talk about what you do every day as
Yeah.
a business expert and coach. Want to fill us in?
Yeah, sure. In quick summary, I work with companies all over the country. I have some international clients as well. And I work with leadership teams and C-level execs or owners to grow the business. A lot of times these people don't have somebody they can really dig deep with and strategize and really set course with a proper business plan. And we create a 1-year plan or a 3-year plan. We reverse engineer and we create and then start integrating a strategy moving forward to grow the business. That's in quick summary. So I work with the leadership teams and the C-level execs, the owners, and then a lot of times I find myself working with the managers and the top salespeople, working with them on how to manage people and how to sell.
Right. So, what I love about following you on Facebook and Twitter and all of those things is that you definitely give out some great tips every single day, which a lot of them are sort of unconventional, spaces that you hold within business. I see some yoga sometimes, which, I'm big into, some
Yeah.
deep breathing, some meditation. So, is all of that something that you definitely do within your broadcast? With your businesses.
I do my best to incorporate a little bit of that without getting too far out of my lane because I think it's important. So one of the things I talk a lot about is taking executive time. So a lot of keynotes, one of the things I'll do to encourage people to build their muscle to take executive time is to do an exercise where I make everybody put their phones away, stop talking, and literally be silent for 2 minutes because it feels like such a long time. But I want people to know what it feels like. I want them to know it feels like a long time so they can then realize that if they take 2 minutes every day to even start building that muscle of taking executive time, that they can. And in that time, they have nothing to do because I make them put everything away. So it forces them to be present, be conscious, and just think. And I think a lot of times business people are so in the business that they don't take time to work on the business and take time to just step back and think and strategize because we think we should be doing things 24/7, but really not doing things is equally as important because you need that time to refuel and be sharp.
And that's exactly right too. I think we grow the most when we're uncomfortable, right?
For
So
sure.
that's really beautiful. And that's also a beautiful segue into what you wrote about in your book, The Think Big Movement. I was very honored because you allowed me to do a little bit of work with you, which I loved.
Yeah.
It's something that I have a passion for. And, for me, that book was such an inspiration. I was like, you have to read it. This person has to read it. It's such a moment, a beautiful moment.
I
So
appreciate
will
that.
you tell us a little bit about what it is?
Yes, of course. No, I appreciated you taking time to edit the book, and it was not, it was a passion of mine to write a series of books. This was my first book. The book is, I'll give a quick summary of the book, but the book is about somebody who's just stuck. He has been in the business world. He decided to go out on his own, and he just was stuck. And through and he can't figure out what is making him stuck. And so through a string of coincidences and people that he interacts with, he begins to all of a sudden come across the wise men, and a team and collection of people that are giving him bits of advice. And he finally realizes what's going on as he meets ultimately his business coach. And he realizes why his company isn't growing. And he realizes that the problem is him. And then he really goes through just a metamorphosis and realizes that he's just, been in this cocoon, and realized that he needs to just kind of grow to the next phase of his business. And the reason I wrote the book is I wrote it as a fable, a business book as a fable, because I think it's a lot easier for business people to read, because it allows you to read it in real time and put yourself in the book. So absolutely. I share tons of best practices and strategies, but in a story format. And one of the driving forces of writing the book was, one, I wanted to be able to share content for people that I'll never maybe be able to touch and be able to be exposed to. So who can utilize the book and the lessons from the book to grow their business. And maybe those people are even people that can never afford a business coach, or don't even think about a business coach, or don't want a business coach. They'll be able to get at least one thing out of the book to grow their business. I have other reasons I wrote the book as well, but that I would say is that was the driving force, to really just give people strategies that they can implement and make it a fun read.
Right. And it absolutely is. And what's so great about it is that you really, I keep freezing. Sorry, guys, just keep going. One of the great things about it too, Jon, I think, is that you really do allow the reader, they are in that moment. They know it is happening and unfolding. And there's so many universal themes that you really get in touch, as I was going through the book and editing it, well after it needed me, honestly, but I loved it. And there were times that I cried because I could connect with that person, their plight. Yeah. And I thought it was such a beautiful way of doing that. And so what I took away, and I've told you this before, is that you are able to gain knowledge, and it is your then duty to help and grow someone else, which is really essentially the foundation, right?
Yeah, the foundation of the book is about paying it forward, about recognizing the faults within yourself. And all the characters in the book have a backstory, and no one character is perfect, not even the wise man, not the business coach. And so in the book, everybody kind of has, even if it's in a small way, a quick backstory, a little bit of pain, a little bit of success, but you can understand the wisdom on what they're bringing to the table and why they feel that they can best influence that piece of wisdom into the person that they're teaching. But each person in the book is really, and I think that's one of the reasons I've had success and with people enjoying the book is because nobody's perfect in the book. And I purposely did not write the book as I'm all knowing, and it's just a very real book. And a lot of the stories are taken from my real life. I would say in a way it's very autobiographical, whether it's me, close family members, friends. I incorporated different pieces of all of that in the book. So if you know me really well, or if you've known me for a long time, it's very, you can follow a lot of the stories and the meaning behind the names, the locations, the places, and how things roll out.
Yeah, you can see yourself showing up in the pages, which I think is so beautiful and brilliant. Yeah. So for you, while you were writing it, was there something that kept coming up? Was there something that was sort of bubbling within you that you learned, perhaps that you didn't even realize that was part of your journey in writing?
It's interesting writing this book, and even when I write blogs on a regular basis, but when I wrote this book, and I'd love to know what you go through, but you got to get into a really deep, emotional, sometimes very dark place to write. So for me, and not dark in a bad way, but dark in, in bringing up memories from 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, because I found myself needing to get to that place so I could feel a certain feeling, so I could write about a certain character. So for
Right.
me, and that was hard. That was hard to kind of go back into those places, feel that, and then just come right out of it and not feel it. But I had to do it for the character
Right.
development. Yeah. So because I just kind of went where
Yeah.
it took me. And I think another thing that was interesting was when I started mapping out the book, I had the story in my head and I mapped everything out and all the characters out. I took an Excel spreadsheet and I mapped out, all of these characters, the story, how it was going to start. But then once I started writing the book kind of started writing itself. And it wasn't in the exact order and it wasn't all the characters that I thought, because as it wrote itself, it just started shaping. And while I was writing the book, my father passed away and my mother-in-law passed away. And so that had there was a lot of sadness, and I ultimately put that, in the book. So without giving away too much, but I incorporated that into the book, and I'll incorporate a lot of that into the second book that I'm writing. So.
Right. And you and I share that, I think we've talked about that a little bit, is that, losing people that are close to your parents and in-laws, and you find that in your writing. You don't necessarily mean to see it, but you do find it there. Right. And it's sort of, it's kind of organic and it's a healing moment. You really do find a beautiful kind of pause in all of that. Yeah. That's really great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a pause. And, it's interesting. I'll tell you something else I wasn't expecting. So I wrote the book. I was passionate about writing the book. It flowed. It was exciting. And then, as you know, because, the editing process takes a couple months, and that, you write the book, you edit the book, you re-edit the book. And then there's just a couple months before it goes live. And what I wasn't expecting is when the book went live to feel so insecure for a couple months, because like you're putting your this book out there that you've written. And I don't know, it was a very bizarre feeling. It was it wasn't like this, boom feeling like, yes, my book went live. It was kind of like, I can't believe it was, I wasn't expecting that. I'm not feeling that way right now, but you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of like having a child and you're like, please tell me it's pretty, just, do you love this baby? It's sort of like that. Right. So no, I totally understand. It's so funny, that feeling too. And you can't explain it to anyone who hasn't walked that journey with you. But yeah, it is. It's sort of a weird and insecure and odd feeling. Definitely. Right. So talking about that, I know what your review's phenomenal, but what has it been like to have that out there and to be in different places? I know you've got a big festival coming up soon. So what is it that you're getting as far as receiving information from people?
Sure. It's, the reviews have been great from friends, from colleagues, from strangers who have bought the book and read the book and reviewed it, from publications that have reviewed it. And so that, I'd be lying to say that didn't make me feel great and take away the insecurity that I had. But so it's been great. And, for me, it's all about helping people and getting people to think differently and to become better people. I'm a business coach. I'm an executive advisor. I'm a business coach. And my clientele are people who are successful but stuck and want to get to the next level, but they also want to grow as human beings, and they want to grow their company and their people. And so I find that even in my business world, if I work with people, or if I'm starting to work with people or thinking about working with people, and they don't want to get better, if the CEO of the company that I'm working with, if that person doesn't want to get better, it's usually not a fit. And so the goal of my book is kind of the same thing, is somebody, is going to read this book and hopefully just feel like they become a better person. They become a better business person. And that made them think about something. The other day I was in Detroit with my wife and our kids, and I ran into somebody and he said, "Hey, I read your book and I got to tell you, the most powerful, there was a quote in there, success minus fulfillment equals failure." And it really struck me, and it really got me thinking, and it really got me thinking to wanting to do my own business. And I thought, and that to me was, worth writing the book for, just getting that random off the street, because that quote was one of the driving forces of the book. So you hope that people pick up on what you want to, the messages that are really powerful to you in the book. And,
Sure.
so I've been getting a lot of positiveness, and I hope it continues. I did get one okay review on Amazon, a 3-star that said
Don't
but
worry.
I was okay with it after I checked out what else he was 3-star in reviewing. But you know what? I can't expect
Right.
to be perfect. And I will say this too, for anybody here wanting to write a book, because I think this is really important. And I did this while I wrote the book, and I'd be curious, Danielle, to see what you did. But I wrote the book for all the reasons I just said, but I wrote the book for myself. So I didn't really
Right.
think about how anyone was going to read it. I didn't think about what anybody wanted, the type of book. I didn't put myself in anybody else's box. I wrote the book for myself, what was in my heart, what was in my mind, and what was in my, philosophy of writing. And so I think that's why I was feeling so vulnerable, because I wrote it that way and hoped that people then accepted the book. But I think if you're writing a book, you have to write it that way for yourself. And then, the universe will, take it from there.
Absolutely. It changes, by the way, as you write that second book, which I know you will do because it's so necessary.
Yeah.
But it does change. You begin to write for the writer. And that insecurity never goes away, by the way. You can have a million accolades and then you go, oh my gosh, no, really? Like, do you really like it? Are you sure?
Right.
So no matter what, it's there. It's just part of it. And it is beautiful because you grow too, right? You just continue to grow. So I want to tell the people that are watching that if you have any questions of Jon, go ahead and put them in the live comments, because we will answer them for you, because we just have a little bit of time left. So in all, that quote, Jon, is something that I absolutely loved when I was reading the book, and I actually circled it and said something to my husband about it. And it's like, this is it. You've got to really read this. Are there other places in the book for you that you really said, okay, I really hope that somebody really keys in on this area?
That's a good question. I think the one of the overall messages was that I hope people pick up on is to be open for feedback. And a lot of times when there's an issue, it's typically you, and you got to look in the mirror. I think that's a big message, and that you have to be okay and embrace failure, and not worry about perfection, and just keep on going and make mistakes, and that you need balance in your life.
Right.
And no matter how big you want to be and how much you want to grow, you need balance in your life, because the philosophy of thinking big for me is, it can be how thinking big doesn't mean you have to be the biggest in the world. It means pick the end result of how big you want to get, and then reverse engineer it and do the small things every day that are going to compound over time and get you to your goal. That's thinking big. And it's about doing just small things every day. And so a lot of that's, balance and looking in the mirror and being vulnerable and making mistakes and trying things and being open for feedback, knowing when to be a student, knowing when to rise and be the teacher, stepping into your leadership, stepping into really owning that you are a leader if you are in business, and owning that is so important. But success minus fulfillment equals failure. At the end of the day, if you don't follow your heart and do what you love to do, then you'll always be a little bit stuck. And so hopefully people read this, and whether they start their own business, grow their business, start a side business, doesn't matter. I've had people come to me and, talk to me about how they are going to grow their side business on Etsy after reading the book. Well, that's great. My goal would be to have a business owner in every home. And that doesn't mean you have to own a business to be 100% of your income, but it can be something that you can do that empowers you and makes you feel like you're in control of your destiny.
That's beautiful and brilliant advice. We have a comment that says, "Is hope a business plan?"
Hope can be a business plan if you do the following. And I recommend this to people. If you have a business idea that you want to do full time or you want to do on the side, it doesn't matter. Then you need to start planning for it today, and get a journal and start mapping it out and put a business plan together. and keep it alive and spend 5, 10, 15 minutes on it every day, building your dream. So when the time is right, you have built something and you're not waiting until the time is right to start building. Build the ideas and turn the ideas into something physical. I think that's the scary part for people. You know, they want to do something, but they don't put it in writing. So when you put something in writing and you create it to be real, it becomes physical. When it becomes physical, then all of a sudden you start telling somebody about it and it holds you accountable. Then all of a sudden you don't want to let yourself down or them down, but share your idea with people, put it in writing, grow it every single day. And do that. And because I'll tell you, I got a buddy of mine today. His name is Nathan. He's a wealth manager, financial planner. And this is a quote he showed me today, which was unbelievably powerful. No amount of security is worth the suffering of a mediocre life chained to a routine that has killed your dreams, by Maya Mendoza. And I thought that was equally as powerful as success minus fulfillment equals failure. So, you know, nobody wants to live a mediocre life, and you can do whatever you want to do in today's world. So take ownership and do something. You know, again, my goal, one of my main purposes and missions is have a business owner in every home. And again, that doesn't mean that you have to, you know, have a business that 100% supports your family, but you can have a newspaper business. You know, if you're 14 years old, do something to infuse your feeling of control that, you know, if you got fired tomorrow, you got it. You can take care of yourself.
Right. Yeah. So they said by writing it down, that makes you own it. Thank you. Another comment said, you're answering my questions now. Thank you so much. So
you're welcome. Thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful advice. And thanks for rolling with it. Although the cameras keep freezing, but such a wonderful time. Jon, I cannot thank you enough. Please flash your book up there so that everybody can go to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all of those great places. There you go. The think big. You can't not see that cover and not love it, right?
I do love the cover.
It's fantastic.
And, I do have to say two things. One, writing a book was a phenomenal experience, but I had a co-writer, AJ Riley, who
That's right.
I couldn't have done it without. I mean, you know, it's I love to write, but I'm not a writer. My grammar is horrible. I write in multiple tenses in one sentence, and I think it sounds great. Participation and his guidance was huge, and he did a phenomenal job. I'm writing my second book with AJ. And you know AJ,
I love him.
Great. Yeah, he's great. Talented. He just wrote his own novel. He's written a bunch of books in the last year. And you know, I can't talk about the book without talking about him. And also, if anybody's interested, you know, my website, Jon Dwoskin, JOND as in David, WOSKIN. And I appreciate you shouting that out earlier as far as the amount of, I have a ton of content on my site, blogs and video tips and two different podcasts and just a ton of stuff. If anybody wants to grow their business and doesn't want or maybe can't afford a business coach, you can get everything you need there.
That's right. You really can. I can't thank you enough. And I hope everybody enjoyed it. Thank you for your questions. And I hope you'll join us next time. And when you get that next book written, I hope you'll come back.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you having me on your initial show, and all the best with everything, and all the best on your books and awards.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Jon. So everybody, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Thanks, Danielle. Bye, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thanks.